Who are some potential trade targets for the Baltimore Ravens to trade for as the 2022 trade deadline approaches? We talk about that and more with a very special guest next year on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we are back here, another episode of Locked On Ravens. I'm your host, Kevin Ostraker of Ravens Wire. We're here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning in to us today, making us your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. That also includes in YouTube on video form. And we're back here after a Ravens huge divisional win, 23-20 over the Cleveland Browns in a game that wasn't pretty, but the Ravens pull out the win, and that is all that matters. Here with me to break that down, talk about some trade targets for the Ravens and kind of a new mini-series we're going to be doing throughout this week and leading up to the deadline, as well as previewing that Tampa Bay game in Week 8 that kind of throws everything out of whack almost for this week. But Taco Tuesday remains the same, and here with us, Spencer Schultz of Baltimore Beatdown. Spence, the Ravens have flip-flopped. They've gone win-loss, 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 win. So hopefully they'll be able to build upon that in Week 8, but in Week 7, they're able to get the job done.
Yeah, they certainly are. And the Ravens are sitting in a spot where they have exactly done, as you said, trickled in and out of winning. They have stacked 2 straight home wins, which is a welcome sight. And now they're going to have to go to Tampa Bay, and go fight a struggling Bucs team that just got drummed by a Panthers team that I don't think anybody saw coming. And the Bucs have continued to struggle without their interior offensive line. So the Ravens have been able to finish, which has been such an emphasis of everything and fans and all of that stuff, against 2 divisional opponents. They've been able to finish and been able to go execute at the end of games. Their offense able to get it done against the Bengals in Week 5, and their defense able to get it done against the Browns in Week 7. So starting to play some levels of complementary football. While it still does feel like they just can't quite erupt into that gigantic, insurmountable explosion of offense and defense and complementary football and big plays and consistent good football. So they've just been so close. There were so many instances Sunday where they could have blown the lid off of the Browns and taken it further. And you got to give the Browns a lot of credit. I think that guys like Grant Delpit, guys like Martin Emerson, guys like Myles Garrett, guys like Deion Jones even coming in and making his debut for the Browns on their defense did some nice things. Jacoby Brissett played like a kind of like a young Ben Roethlisberger in that game a little bit. And Nick Chubb is a tank, I think. And I think I said it last week. He's the best runner of the football in the NFL, in my opinion. So the Browns were a team that was fighting to not be a seller at the deadline and to say, okay, we can be 3-4. We can live to die another week. Maybe we can be 4-4. And instead, immediately after this game, it's rumored that, Kareem Hunt's available and some other guys are available. So I think that early season desperation was a little bit overlooked in this game. I did think the Ravens would roll, and they were close to doing it, but they just haven't quite been able to get over that hump of the close game and the close finish. And I know fans are starting to pull their hair out and get gray hair and, have a lot of emotional reactions and things like that, but it still feels like it's coming.
Yeah, and it's a game, Spencer, where on the shoulders of Gus Edwards, the Ravens offense was able to do some things, but then you see Lamar Jackson have just 9 completions, 16 pass attempts. What do you think went into this run-heavy game script? Cleveland's defense was not great, right? They were a bottom 10 pass-off defense, a bottom 10 rush defense. But with Lamar throwing 16 times, the Ravens, they rode the run game. They ran it 44 times for 160 yards. I thought Gus Edwards looked great. I thought Lamar Jackson had some nice runs. Jackson had some good throws in there too, but I know an observation for many is that he might just be holding the ball in some of these situations for a bit too long, not taking the short and underneath stuff. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that the Ravens are really trying to get Rashad Bateman going, and they're really trying to get Devin Duvernay going, and of course Mark Andrews, and they want to generate those big explosive downfield plays. They are often running 3 and even sometimes 2-man route concepts where they keep in 6, 7, 8 in protection, all the way up to max protection, run play action, and want to, really give Lamar Jackson time to process. And teams really just aren't blitzing heavily. And I think Lamar Jackson said it well at the press conference that was held today on Monday, and he said, hey, teams aren't running cover zero. They're running fire zones or sim pressures, as I like to call them. And it's, there's 7 in coverage and there's 3 guys running routes. So what are you going to do? Hold the ball a little bit. And it's okay. Guess what Lamar Jackson didn't do? Turn the ball over. He didn't really come close to turning the ball over. So I think that's a huge positive. He made a couple big throws. And really, he zips a ball into Rashad Bateman at the 1-yard line. Bateman kind of has a little bit of trouble handling it. And Bateman is a guy, sidebar, has been a guy that in college did struggle with drops and does need to continue working on his hand positioning. Everything else looks outstanding. That's, I think, his Achilles heel right now. But I digress. If he is able to corral that ball and just fall into the end zone pretty cleanly, then he throws a touchdown and maybe this box score looks a little cleaner. On top of that, there's a Kenyon Drake double screen, a great call on 3rd down. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who made a couple really good plays in this game, is able to get a hand on that ball, prevents Kenyon Drake from most likely walking into the end zone. Maybe not, but I probably think he does. And then there's another instance, the Ravens run a China concept, which is like a trips smash concept, where there's like a corner and then a guy sitting underneath of it, so you kind of high-low defenders. And the Browns completely blow the coverage. Devin Duvernay has 7 yards of separation. Lamar Jackson sees it, steps into it, lets it rip, but Ronnie Stanley gets pushed a little bit far into Lamar Jackson's lap, and the defender is able to go bat the pass down. So there's like 2 batted passes and an elbow length that prevent this from being a game where they have 10 yards per attempt maybe and 2-3 touchdowns. And then there's another one even where they're down before the Rashad Bateman touchdown, where it's a 3-man concept. The Browns do send a cover 0, and Josh Oliver works back to the ball. Lamar Jackson puts a perfect ball on, and Grant Delpit makes a great play. So it's just like the margin for error here has just been so low on what it's just like one small thing. It's never an abject failure of the offense. It's always one small thing prevents them from making the big play. Even, McCary at one point kind of trips Lamar Jackson up in the run game, or, one defender is able to swipe a foot and make a good play, and it's a 12-yard gain instead of a 40-yard gain, things like that. So Deion Jones on the 4th down conversion, 4th and 1, Mark Andrews pitches the ball out. Devin Duvernay gets kind of blamed. I think it wasn't his fault. Deion Jones undercuts Devin Duvernay, which was a special athlete. I like to call those SABPs, special athlete bad plays. Not a lot of linebackers, not a lot of 1% athletes that are playing in the NFL could undercut Devin Duvernay's block and then still go chase down Lamar Jackson upfield. He does that SABP, and then, it's not a touchdown, it's a first down. So it's just, the lid, it just feels like a pot that's been boiling, and it just isn't getting to that rolling boil where the lid starts to fall off and you blow the lid off of it. But they've been darn close for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, and look, I don't think Lamar Jackson played badly in this game. There were just a couple things where, people are now, it's like, oh, Lamar Jackson attempts only 16 passes. People are now pointing to Greg Roman saying, why is Greg Roman only having Lamar throw 16 times a game? But the game script, I thought, look, Gus Edwards was gashing the Browns on his attempts, and I think that they were able to ride that. And the Browns' rush defense was just not performing well. So for Jackson, I did also like the fact that he was a lot more careful with the ball. He didn't have any turnovers in this game. So that was a huge positive to me, and something where he can build upon that performance, even though the box score will if you look at the box score, you say, oh, only 9 completions. Oh my, it doesn't look great box score wise. But I think we go beyond the box score, and there are positives to take away from the game, despite Lamar not necessarily throwing the ball as much as people would have wanted him to. And I mean, that one throw to Devin Duvernay early in the game down the sideline where the ball just floats in and it's right into Devin Duvernay's bread bat. Like, that throw was incredible to me. But speaking of incredible, Spencer, on defense, there were a couple players who I want to highlight here. I want to again, a huge shout out to Patrick Queen and what he was able to do on Sunday. He looked confident. He talked about building that confidence and how he's been able to kind of build it after the game, but he looked like a heat-seeking missile out there. He was great. Justin Houston, Locked On Ravens legend, as I want to call him now, has 2 sacks, almost has a third, but Jacoby Brissett spins out of it, kind of that play where he picks up some yards. But regardless, I think that those 2 players, Spencer, deserve major shout-outs, and honestly were players that defensively are my players of the game.
Definitely. Patrick Queen has strung together arguably the best month of any linebacker in the NFL this season. Hit the best month of his career, back-to-back really good performances. And, has been a player that's had a couple moments where he just played too fast throughout, but it's always been there. The athleticism's always been there. The big playability has always been there. all of those things. So watching him, I believe a 23-year-old dude who was drafted at 20 years old, put it together is really, really fun to watch. And watching the confidence that he has pre-snap, the ability to go diagnose and make back-to-back tackle for losses, basically take the Browns and push them back into being pinned against their own goal line because of plays that he made consecutively and end a drive was massive. And for him to go make, I think, 5 tackles in the first quarter, I think he had 2 or 3 tackles for loss, a sack, quarterback hits. He's playing well in coverage. He's not getting picked on at all and has put himself in position to make 2 interceptions, one that he did drop. There is another one that was a tip ball that's a little different, but, is putting himself in a position to make impact plays in coverage as a blitzer and is creating huge negative plays for offenses in the run game. It's a first-round player. That's why they drafted him in the first round. It's time to pick up his 5th-year option after this year, and I think we're just going to continue to see more of the same. Patrick Queen ahead of the season said the best day of his NFL career was when Mike Macdonald was named the Ravens defensive coordinator, and we're seeing him start to fully play with confidence within that system. Things are a little simplified for him. He's able to trust his pre-snap reads. He's not always in these do-or-die situations that Wink Martindale, who does ask a lot more of linebackers than really any other defensive coordinator in the NFL, and the blitzes and the one-on-ones and coverage and things like that. So Queen was outstanding, and Justin Houston was just as efficient as he could possibly be. Him, Calais Campbell, guys that were just hounding, looking like they were, 28 years old again, 25 years old again in this game. Campbell relentlessly hounds. Both of them get strip sacks. Houston is just turning a sharp, sharp edge. And to watch him be so good in 16 snaps after taking a little rest, it felt like that was a calculated move. And they asked to lean on Odafe Owe for a couple weeks, who did also have a nice game in this one. And then they're able to go to Tampa and probably ask Houston to play a couple more snaps than he did because he only played 16 snaps. So Houston was outstanding. Geno Stone, another player that I thought rose to the occasion, blew a coverage that led to a huge explosive play. Also committed a very stupid defensive pass interference, just had no idea where the ball was and runs into a receiver away from the ball. Other than that, awesome performance. Kyle Hamilton had a big game. I thought Marlon Humphrey played well. So the Ravens stepped up to the challenge defensively, and they led up a meaty drive to the Browns to open the game, and that's a touchdown. Browns score a field goal, and they basically shut the Browns out for most of the game until the end there. And then they're able to go stand on 10 fingers and 10 toes at the end of the game, push the Browns into really deep field goal range. And then this outstanding Ravens special team was able to make play after play to kind of put the cherry on top of that defense. And that summated in that Malik Harrison block kick. And you hear Malik Harrison say, we saw that they hit a really low trajectory and it went off my face. It felt great, having a kick go off my face. So, I mean, the dude's been shot before, so I don't think he's too worried about the ball hitting him in the face. So I think he's playing pretty unafraid as well. And I think he had another great defensive game too. So I think that's a crazy story that's kind of just gone under the rug less than a year ago, just like Brian Robinson, a life-changing event happens to him. And the way that he's responded to that, I think, has been incredible to watch. And he's talked about having a new lease on life and all of those things. And to see the smile on his face after the game and the kind of, like I said, second lease that he's playing with is really cool. And watching him and Patrick Queen blossom into the awesome, linebacker duo that they were supposed to be has been a joy. And I feel like something that deserves a lot of credit for patience with those players in the organization, patience with those players in themselves, and the ability to keep working, keep grinding through. And it's paying off in year 3 for those 2 linebackers.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see how the defense continues to perform. Again, after kind of a rough-ish start to the season, I think we've really seen guys step up, guys become more comfortable. Credit to Mike Macdonald, too. It hasn't been perfect, but I think we're really starting to see him grow and come into his own as an NFL defensive coordinator as well. But coming up on our second segment, we're going to be talking a bit about trades, who the Ravens could target with the trade deadline coming up here. It's on Tuesday, November 1st. We're here on Tuesday, October 25th. We're 1 week away, so be sure to stay tuned. We still have a ton to talk about here on Locked On Ravens. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. And there have been many people who can get stuck focusing on problems instead of solutions, and that situation might go a bit better with a different mindset, but it can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when faced with a challenge in life. But when you learn how to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling. A therapist can help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals no matter how big or how small. And there are so many people who have positive experiences with therapy, and there are plenty of benefits too, like you feel more like yourself, less stressed, more confident. And there are a lot of things you can get from trying therapy, such as unloading stress, emotional healing, and also help with anxiety and depression. And if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. So go match with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists at any time. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off of your first month today. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. And I do want to tell you a bit about LinkedIn. And these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I've used LinkedIn for a ton of things throughout my life, and it's super easy to create a job post on LinkedIn Jobs for free. Just add your job and the hashtag purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. You have simple tools you can use like screening questions that make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who would like to interview and who you'd like to hire. And it can be really important to finish the year strong, and the right team member can help you do that. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We're back. Our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with Spencer Schultz of Baltimore Beatdown. And Spencer, after a 23-20 win over Cleveland in Week 7, the attention somewhat turns 1 to Tampa Bay. We'll talk about that in the final segment. But 2, you have the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday, a week from today. And there have been plenty of conversations about if the Ravens should make a trade, if they should make a trade, who should that trade be for. The conversation has been widely surrounding wide receivers. I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit, you and I, but I do want to get your opinion because I did see you put up a poll on Twitter about if the Ravens had the option, and this is a Denver Broncos poll here. You gave the options Bradley Chubb for a first and a third, or Jerry Jeudy for a second and a fifth. Now, I did vote, and I will say my vote was for Jerry Jeudy for a second and a fifth. And 81.4% of people agreed with me on that. You have the Bradley Chubb for a first and third being 18.6% compared to that 81.4%. What's your thought process on both of those? You have the wide receiver, which I know many people believe is a huge need for them, especially just outside of Bateman and Duvernay. But then you have kind of the defensive line edge player who could make a huge impact, especially a player like Bradley Chubb.
Definitely. I like Jerry Jeudy a lot. There is the fan aspect where it's like, oh, he's friends with Lamar. You know, Lamar lost Hollywood. Maybe that'll be nice. Maybe that'll keep Lamar happy. I do kind of feel like Jerry Jeudy's skill set is pretty similar in some ways to a Rashad Bateman. He has also struggled to catch the football, and more than really any receiver. If you go to ESPN's catch metrics, which is how often does a player catch a ball they should, how often does a player make a spectacular catch, and weighing that, he has been dreadful in the bottom 20, 25% of the league since he entered the league. But he's a great separator, can do some really nice things. You can trust him in some situations. He's going to be a huge upgrade to a James Prochet or a Tylan Wallace or a Demarcus Robinson. And it feels like with Bateman and Duvernay and Jeudy, you're looking at like 3 really good number 2 type pass catchers as of now. And then you have Mark Andrews, who can bang on the drum all day and continue to be a force as a number 1. And that's a deep, talented, albeit young group. On the other side of the coin, the Ravens, and while it's kind of funny to me because it feels like the major complaint for years, really since Terrell Suggs had his last 11 and a half sack season. I think that was 2018, perhaps, maybe 2017. But we need a pass rusher. We need a pass rusher. Ravens fans, we want a pass rusher. We want a pass rusher. Well, it's really hard to go draft a premier or very good or, tier 2, tier 3 pass rusher outside of the top 10, 15, 20 picks a lot of the time. Odafe Oweh has a lot of promise. Absolutely. David Ojabo could be a superstar, could be nothing. We don't know yet still. I like David Ojabo a lot. But with Bradley Chubb, not only is he a power rusher that can play through and play a different style, he's also an awesome run defender who sets a mean edge, can kick inside a little bit, do some awesome things, is a player that's entering his prime that has been productive in a good defense. You're familiar with that player. He's a really good player. Does he have some injury history stuff? Sure. Is he on his 5th-year option? Yes. But I would make that trade if I'm able to say, hey, you guys want to shop Bradley Chubb? Okay, well, I want to sign and extend, similar to what the Ravens did with Marcus Peters. I would like to make the trade and then extend Bradley Chubb. Otherwise, they really can't make that deal. The only way the Ravens would be able to trade for Bradley Chubb is with an extension or if they were to extend Marcus Peters or Lamar Jackson, because they won't have enough money to pay the remainder of Bradley Chubb's salary. And I don't know that it's even possible for I might be wrong on this, so please double check, but I don't think that you can pay salary for a player. I think it has to be like a reworked contract at Chubb. So that's a lot of stipulation and things like that. But Chubb wants a contract, I'm sure. And I'm sure the Ravens will be like, if he can have him for a price that the Ravens see fit, maybe it is a first and a third. Maybe it's a second and a third. Maybe it's a second and a second in consecutive years. Whatever the price is, if they can get the right one, that's a really good defensive player. And pass rush, we have seen win Super Bowls with good quarterbacks and teams that don't turn the ball over and run the ball well with a ferocious pass rush. That is a very common formula for winning Super Bowls. So I personally, in that situation, would love to take Bradley Chubb.
Yeah, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, Spencer, because with the wide receiver versus edge position, even just in general, a lot of people point to Carolina after the Christian McCaffrey trade. But it seems right now, with each day that passes, with each report that comes out, that it's becoming a lot more unrealistic that guys like DJ Moore or Brian Burns are going to be moved. So in your opinion, what is the most realistic splash that Baltimore can make with a player that you believe is available right now and that the Ravens could potentially trade for? Is it Jerry Jeudy or is it Bradley Chubb, or do you have any others in mind?
Brandin Cooks is a player that comes to mind as a Goldilocks type situation. And I would be surprised if Cooks isn't moved. I know that he was upset at the potential idea of being traded last year because he's been traded several times, but there's a reason he's been traded several times, because teams want him because he fills a role. He is a veteran. And the more times you get traded and succeed, the more times it shows that you are kind of capable of being a sponge wherever you go and being an amoeba that can move between offensive schemes and still be a valuable piece. I think that he is one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL, has been for quite some time. The Texans are a candidate as a seller. His salary is $1 million if traded, which is potentially a savings for the Ravens over some players that he would replace on the active roster. I think what the draft capital required you have to spend in order to acquire him would be much lower than a DJ Moore and probably a Jerry Jeudy as well. He's also an older player that is seeking a Super Bowl. And among all of those things, he also is a calm and it's like a quiet splash. It is like a bloop, but it is a splash. He is a player that doesn't have drama, isn't ever in the headlines, isn't ever a superstar, isn't someone that is spoken of very highly right now. It just feels like he's a very drama-free acquisition at a position of need that is a veteran, that is affordable. And next year you can be done with him if you'd like. You can absolutely get out. His contract has no bonuses or no required bonuses. If they were to cut him, it would be scot-free. So I think that feels like a really awesome situation. Another couple players I think that would be fun. Potentially Montez Sweat is another one, depending on how Washington goes. And if they do want to be a seller, feels like this very well could be Ron Rivera's last year. But Sweat is another player that has a low salary, has been pretty good. They do want to get Chase Young back. They do also have some other defensive linemen that are very good. He's an interesting player. Jacoby Myers is another one that I've been watching, but it depends. If the Patriots win as we're watching this Monday night game right now, they're winning and they could end up being right around 500 or better. So why would they want to be sellers right now? So I think there are some interesting players. Bradley Roby from the Saints, I think, is another one, a cornerback that could make a splash with and is a slot corner. And it feels like the Ravens have kind of been flip-flopping between Stevens and putting Kyle Hamilton in the slot and Pepe Williams, and all of those guys have kind of had different failures in different situations and are young and going to have growing pains. And then there's also William Jackson, Dante Jackson, a couple cornerbacks, some Jackson cornerbacks. The Ravens could have Jackson if they were to acquire one. And hey, maybe Jackson, and Jackson if they got both of them. So Dante Jackson, more of a perimeter corner with really good ball skills and vertical speed. And then William Jackson, a good press man corner that's been a veteran. He has had a little bit of trouble, but like Ozzie Newsome has said many times before, you can never have enough corners. So I think those are all some pretty viable options that wouldn't cost what the Ravens typically show they are unwilling to spend, which is probably beyond a third-round pick. They usually like to go up to about a third-round pick in these deals. I think we've seen Calais Campbell for a fifth, Marcus Peters for a fifth, and Kenny Young. Yannick Ngakoue was a third and a fifth. I think you have to go all the way back maybe to Anquan Bolden to find a player that was dealt for or acquired for higher than a fifth round or a third round pick, a second round pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to look at that because I'm curious about it. But yeah, it seems like the third round pick is right in that range. I think Cooks for a third round pick makes a lot of sense. But Spencer, could we potentially see a Ravens player involved in one of these deals? Now, when looking at the roster, Nick Boyle seems like the obvious trade candidate, not getting a ton of snaps this year. Josh Oliver playing over him, Isaiah Likely, you have Charlie Kohler coming back. Is that really the only player that you could see be involved in one of these deals? Or do you have anybody else in mind?
I think potentially a Ben Cleveland would be another player that comes to mind. You do have McCary. You're really happy with the way that Powers has played. You have Tristan Colon, who it feels like they're comfortable to put in games. And while he's not a massive guy, they put him in games and they brought him in on jumbo. And he is bigger than a Tyler Linderbaum. And it kind of feels like they hold him in high graces, and them getting backup level play out of a guard wouldn't be the end of the world. Maybe a team like the Rams, maybe a team like the Jets, who just lost Elijah Vera Tucker. So I could see them getting dealt potentially. Nick Boyle could also maybe save them a little bit of money through doing so, while they did restructure his contract a little bit. But yeah, I could definitely see that. I just don't know that those players, Cleveland perhaps, but it feels like Cleveland is a very scheme-specific player, and that if it weren't for the Ravens drafting him where they did, he might have fallen another round or two, or who knows. So those are the guys I look at. Boyle did get 9 snaps in this game. Kohler is coming back at some point, and they do have a logjam at tight end. So I would not be surprised to see one of those players depart with. It looks like Josh Oliver is held in high regards. He's taken a ton of snaps this year. Isaiah Likely obviously is a pass catcher. They love him, and he started to come on a little bit lately, making some key first down catches. And Kohler, I don't think they're doing anything with Kohler. So, he'll come up, get some snaps here and there. And then obviously got Mark Andrews, and that's a really thick room. Pat Ricard does a lot of the things that Nick Boyle does as well. Nick Boyle did come in a jumbo package this past Sunday and basically tackled someone cleanly as an offensive player on a 3rd and 1, I believe, to clear out a Gus Edwards run in a jumbo unbalanced line. But Nick Boyle, they've loved for a long time. They definitely respect him. He is someone who probably has a future in coaching, I would think, the way that he has coached up guys like Mark Andrews to block, Josh Oliver to block as well. So would definitely stink as a fan perspective, but something's got to give in that tight end room at some point.
Yep, 100% agree. And I know when looking at positions that the Ravens could trade for or be interested in, I know a lot of people would say, tackle depth. But tackle depth is so hard to trade for, first of all, because everybody needs it, especially now. Everybody needs tackle depth. And so for teams that are willing to part with it, and I think, there are not a lot of teams that are willing to do it, it would cost a ton of draft capital. Do you agree with that?
I'm sorry, it costs a ton of draft capital in terms of tackle depth?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Tackles are a premium position, and I would say corner and tackle are the 2 most expensive positions outside of cornerback or of quarterback. So it certainly would.
Yeah, so I would anticipate the Ravens just along with what they have there. I think wide receiver and edge are probably the 2 most likely ones, because tackle and corner, everybody wants them. Everybody needs them at this stage of the season. But coming up, we'll be diving in to the Ravens Week 8 matchup with Tampa Bay, talking about how they can build off of their Week 7 win against the Browns. So be sure to stay tuned. Still a ton to talk about and dive into here on the show. But first, I do want to tell you a bit about PrizePicks. And I have a ton of fantasy leagues, a ton of fantasy teams, and a ton of players in those leagues. So I have stock in everybody. But if you want a new twist on fantasy, try PrizePicks. And there are so many ways to use PrizePicks, and it's super easy to use. You can have a ton of different entries as well. And how it works is pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will go score more or less in their PrizePicks rejection, you can win up to 10 times the amount on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus rejections available. PrizePicks offers rejections on any sport that you watch, including NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, college basketball, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. They have safe and fast withdrawals, and they're currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On and sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. We're back, rounding out our Taco Tuesday edition of Locked On Ravens with Spencer Schultz of Baltimore Beatdown. I'm still Kevin Ostraker, your host, and we're not going to be talking about this game. And Spencer, at Tampa Bay is reeling right now. They come off of a terrible loss to the Panthers, 21-3, in a game that they were favored in. They lose last week to the Steelers. So they're on a pretty rough stretch right now. Tom Brady does not look like Tom Brady. The defense is going through plenty of injuries right now. We saw the injury report come out for Monday as the Ravens do play on Thursday night. So how are you feeling about this game? I know a lot of people coming out of the Cleveland game, it's almost like, yeah, they got to win, but it's not like a confident win where people are like, oh, I'm 100% confident in this team now. So where are you coming out of week 7 going into week 8 with just your overall thoughts on the team?
Well, I think when you look at the schedule ahead of the season and see the Bucs on a short week, you budget yourself for a loss there. You see Tom Brady, short week, you're the traveling team on a Thursday after a divisional game. You budget yourself for a loss. I think that a loss would be acceptable. It's a non, especially because it's an out of conference game. Doesn't have any tiebreaker implications. It's not, directly benefiting the other AFC team. It has to get to common opponents of the Bucs, and that's a deep, deep, deep tie. So in those terms, I think definitely a game you could lose. And then when you go look at things like DVOA and on Football Outsiders, the number 4 team is the Baltimore Ravens. Their offense ranks 5th in DVOA. Their defense ranks 12th, and their special teams ranks 1st. The number 8 team, the 3-4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who rank 19th offensively, 5th defensively, and then they have the 24th best special teams. So a little bit of an inverse of the Ravens. Their defense has held them together a little bit more so while the Ravens defense has come on. They are going to be without Antoine Winfield Jr. We know that. He is arguably their best defensive player, especially in their secondary. He is a glue guy for them. It is a tough loss for them. We'll see how the Ravens injury report shakes out, but this is supposed to be a deep Ravens team. The Ravens pride themselves on being extremely deep. So they did things like rest Mark Andrews, limit Lamar Jackson in practice. Justin Houston only plays a few snaps. Feels like they let Gus Edwards take a pretty heavy workload. I'm curious to see how that plays out on a short week in lieu of a guy like Justice Hill, perhaps. So I'm curious to see how that also plays out. Offensively, for the Bucs, they are missing their 3 interior offensive linemen from the last couple of years. Marpet, Kappa, and Jensen not playing. Jensen goes down with a knee. Karras as well Karras is from the Patriots. But Kappa is on the Bengals and Marpet is retired. So their interior offensive line, aside from Shaq Mason, has been dreadful. Mason they acquire from the Patriots, and he is DNP, has been struggling to practice as well. They have Robert Hainsey taking a ton of snaps. They have Luke Godke, a rookie, taking a ton of snaps. They can't run the ball at all. They are the least efficient rushing team in the NFL. Leonard Fournette has been dreadful in terms of rushing yards over expectation, things like that. Has been a good outlet as a pass catcher. So their offense is really not something that's terribly impressive. And then when you look at Antoine Winfield, a guy who has played, 437, I think, of their 459 snaps, has generated, I think has the second most sacks as a safety with 3. He is a tackling machine. He's only missed 1 tackle, I think, out of like 38 attempts in coverage. He has, a pass breakup and interception, has allowed a couple touchdowns. They line him up in the slot. They line him up at corner. They line him up at free safety. He's in the box making a ton of plays. A tough loss for them. Then, they've got a couple other guys. Levante David, still one of the best, if not the best linebackers in the NFL. He'll be playing. I think Logan Ryan is their other safety right now, and he's, been in and out a good bit. And then Mike Edwards as well, another safety. He's, had an up and down year. So this defense has been strong. They do have Vita Vea. They do have, Shaq Barrett. They do have some younger players. Devin White has been absolutely dreadful the last couple of years, and really I think has turned into kind of one of the more overrated players because he did have some good playoff games and things like that. But their corners are feisty. Jamel Dean is feisty. Sean Murphy-Bunting is feisty. All those kinds of things. So, it's a 3-4 team that should be where the Ravens are a little better and kind of is in a kind of similar boat to the Ravens. But the Ravens have been in every game they've played all the way through the bitter end, and that has been the opposite case for the Bucs. So Tom Brady, obviously a very peculiar situation with his personal life, with, retiring, with taking time off in training camp. It's a short week. He took some hits last week, and the Ravens pass rush is dialed up right now. Feels like they are going to be able to take advantage of that Bucs interior offensive line. And if they can, that's how you beat Tom Brady. You have to put that free safety in the middle of the field deep, a la what they did with Earl Thomas back in 2019, and can't allow Brady to pick you apart over top. Have to put a lot of players in coverage underneath and force him to really pick you apart in those intermediate ranges. They don't have a Rob Gronkowski. They don't have a good run game right now. So I don't know. It's tough being a road Thursday team. Like I said, you budget for a loss there against Tom Brady and could go either way. It's going to be a really unpredictable game. It feels like.
Right. And with everything in mind with what you just said there, how do you want the coaching staff to approach this game? What do you want to see from Greg Roman? What do you want to see from Mike McDonald, John Harbaugh in this game to take advantage of some of the Bucs' weaknesses, some of their injuries, and make sure they come out with a win?
Well, I really like to see the Ravens continue to run the ball aggressively and, try to tire out of Vita Vea, let that offensive line go to work. You don't want to allow their pass rush to start teeing off on you offensively. Would like to see them, test downfield if there's no Antoine Winfield, test those slot situations and things of that nature offensively. Make sure that you're, basically functioning. If the Ravens can get to the line, have time, get calls in on time, all of those basic elements, I think they can score some points, kick some field goals, score a couple touchdowns, spread the field out. Don't allow Levante David, and don't make it easy on Levante David and Devin White, who can run over the middle of the field, especially with no Antoine Winfield. Spread the field laterally, make them run, tire them out, run the ball to the outside, attack the perimeter, run, make them defend the run, things like that. On the other side of the ball, I touched on it a bit. You got to hit Tom Brady, man. That's how you do it. You can't let him pick you apart underneath. You can't let him bomb it over your head. And you have to make him throw into the intermediate. You have to make him hold the ball. You have to make him throw the ball away and take sacks and avoid getting hit and things like that. So I don't know. Every time anybody wants to say, has time caught up to Tom? It's never worked before. It feels like we're on the cusp of that yet again. He's reeling. He's having some personal life drama. And, Lamar Jackson has always had some weird admiration for Tom Brady that's really fun. And I think Tom Brady thinks Lamar Jackson's pretty cool himself. So it's a fun matchup. I feel like Lamar can pick himself up for this one. It's a primetime game. And again, are the Ravens going to get the boil going? Are they going to blow the lid off? Are they going to be able to, finally cook the pasta, I guess, if I'm going to keep talking about boiling water. So we'll say cook the pasta. To be seen, man, to be seen. But I think those are kind of the keys in general and a very vague overlook. And then we'll chop it up a little deeper as we get closer to the game here.
Yeah, for sure. And do you have a prediction? Do the Ravens keep boiling that water and cooking the pasta?
I think the Ravens cook the pasta. I think they make some ziti. I think they make some sweet linguine. This team is supposed to be deep, and the Bucs are not. The Bucs are supposed to be a very top talent team, and they don't have a guy like Winfield. They don't have a guy like Jensen. They don't have a guy like Gronk this year. They don't have a run game. A lot of don'ts on this Bucs team. And if the Ravens can get anything going with Mark Andrews, anything going against those safeties without Antoine Winfield, I think they can start to roll. I do think the Ravens win this one. I think that their pass rush is in a good place. I think the guys like Justin Houston and Calais Campbell are chomping at the bit to go play against a Tom Brady. They're in their last hurrah. Campbell re-signed, contemplated retirement, came back, is playing really well. Houston has a little injury, gets his feng shui back down. He's wearing the, Karate Kid bandana. This is their time. They want to make a Super Bowl run this year. They want to go play a Tom Brady and beat him and send him back into retirement. This is a legacy game for them in some ways. So if the Ravens pass rush gets going, I think they win. And I think the Ravens pass rush can get going against a group that doesn't have a ton of blocking talent. And looks like Mike Evans is banged up. It looks like Julio Jones is banged up. Russell Gage is banged up. Again, Braid is banged up. A much less impactful pass-catching group than Brady has had as opposed to the last couple of years, and a much less talented interior offensive line. Spells like a little bit of doomsday. And I'm curious, how is Mike McDonald going to go learn what he learned from Dean Pease and Wink Martindale, two coordinators that gave Tom Brady fits at different times in Mike McDonald's tenure as a assistant coach and an underling? What can you pick and pull? And obviously, John Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, the Patriots, always has hated him, always has hated the Patriots, always wants to beat the Patriots. If there's a game that John Harbaugh can pick himself up and can really get dialed in schematically and on edges, it is against Tom Brady, is against Bill Belichick. They want to beat those guys badly. John Harbaugh going, I guess, for the Brady and Belichick sweep this year, potentially, after beating New England up in New England. Here you go, John. Here is your modus operandi. Go do something, my friend.
There you have it. Pasta will be cooked on Thursday night, according to Spencer. And I'm with you. I think this is a Ravens win. I think that you always got to keep in mind it's a Thursday night game. You're traveling. You are the road team. But I had this game as a loss before the season, but which is where Tampa Bay is right now. I think Baltimore could really build momentum here. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it will be a good game regardless. But Spencer, thank you so much for hopping on. That's all I have for you here today. Please tell the people what you got going on over at Baltimore Beatdown and anything else you got content-wise.
Well, I'm starting a new series that should be premiering tomorrow. I'm throwing some videos on Two Guys Watching Football with your other guest, Cole Jackson. I'm going to be looking at every third down and fourth down, the money down series. I'm going to be putting and doing a breakdown for each third down and fourth down play on both sides of the football. That'll be posted for the Browns game tomorrow, and that will be recurring hopefully, depending on when tape comes out, every Tuesday. Or sometime Wednesday in all likelihood. So go check out the Money Down series on Two Guys Watching Football. That will also be posted in article form with the videos embedded on BaltimoreBeatdown.com. You can always find me at Ravens for Dummies. All the good places, all the good stuff. I've been on here for years. You guys know where to find me. Thank you so much, Kevin. Make sure to go give reviews, 5 stars, share this podcast with a friend, reward Kevin, who gives you the best daily Ravens coverage. We will also be joining ourselves, me, you, Kevin, Cole Jackson, Jake Luke, my co-host of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast, as well as Bobby Trossett of, I guess, Bobby Baltimore. I don't even know what he calls himself anymore, but he's got his own thing going on. So we're going to be doing a live stream tailgate from Pickett Brewing on December 4th when the Broncos country travels to Baltimore for Marshall Yanda's Ring of Honor inductee ceremony. So listeners, listen out for that one. You can meet me, meet Kevin, Jake, Cole, Bobby, all the guys who bring you, your favorite Ravens coverage will be there at Pickett Brewing. It is right next to the stadium from 10 to noon, just about there. So come talk some Ravens, shake some hands, have yourself a beer, have yourself a hot dog, and let's see what the Ravens can do to Russell Wilson if he's playing by then.
Yeah, let's ride. We're going to do it. It's going to be super fun. We'll be able to chop it up in person. That'll be a super fun thing to do. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, as we get closer to that, we'll be able to put that out there a bit more. But support Spencer, support Cole, support everyone. Great Ravens content out there, Spencer. Thank you so much. That's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. When we get back in tomorrow, I'll be diving into more Ravens content. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And I will see you right back here tomorrow.